the FBI's most wanted, 2.5 years on the run, and his greatest weapon was a phone call. On February 15, 1995, FBI agents surrounded a small apartment complex in Raleigh, North Carolina. Inside, a man sat in front of a computer surrounded by cloned cell phones, fake IDs, and stolen source code from some of the biggest technology companies on Earth: Motorola, Nokia, Sun Microsystems, Fujitsu. His name was Kevin Mitnick, and for the past 2.5 years, he had been the most wanted cybercriminal in the United States, living under fake names, moving between cities, breaking into corporate networks from apartment living rooms while the FBI hunted him across the country. But here's what made Mitnick different from every other hacker the government had ever chased. His most powerful weapon wasn't code. It wasn't malware. It wasn't a zero-day exploit. It was his voice. Kevin Mitnick could call any company on Earth, talk to the right person, say the right words, and walk away with their most closely guarded secrets. No firewalls to bypass. No passwords to crack. He simply asked, and people gave him everything. This is the story of the man who proved that the most dangerous vulnerability in any system isn't software. It's human nature. Kevin David Mitnick was born on August 6, 1963, in Van Nuys, a neighborhood in Los Angeles, California. His parents divorced when he was 3, and he was raised primarily by his mother. By most accounts, he was a quiet kid, unremarkable in school. But at age 12, Kevin discovered something that would change his life forever. He figured out that the punch card transfer system used by the Los Angeles bus network had a flaw. He convinced a bus driver to tell him where to buy his own ticket punch. Then he dug through dumpsters near a bus company garage until he found stacks of unused transfer slips. Armed with a $15 punch and a pile of blank transfers, 12-year-old Kevin Mitnick rode the entire LA bus system for free. It wasn't about saving money. It was about the puzzle, the thrill of finding a weakness in a system that no one else had noticed. And that thrill would become an addiction that defined his entire life. By his mid-teens, Mitnick had fallen in with a group of phone phreakers, people who manipulated telephone networks for fun. And in 1981, at age 17, he pulled off his first serious hack. He and a friend broke into the Cosmos system, Pacific Bell's computer system for mainframe operations, the database that controlled phone lines across Los Angeles. Once inside, they could redirect phone calls, intercept conversations, extract passwords, and access billing records for thousands of subscribers. They had the keys to the phone network of one of America's largest cities. Mitnick was arrested, but because he was a juvenile, the consequences were minimal. He was placed on probation. No prison time. For a 17-year-old, it was barely a slap on the wrist. And it taught him a dangerous lesson. You can break into some of the most powerful systems in the country, and the punishment is almost nothing. In 1988, Mitnick crossed a much bigger line. He broke into the network of Digital Equipment Corporation, one of the largest computer companies in the world, and copied their proprietary software. DEC claimed the stolen code was worth $4 million. Mitnick was arrested and convicted. He was sentenced to 12 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. It was his first real taste of consequences. And during that supervised release, he was supposed to stay away from computers, stay away from other hackers, and rebuild his life. He lasted almost 3 years. But near the end of his supervision, he couldn't resist. He hacked into Pacific Bell's voicemail computers. He also reconnected with Louis DePayne, a childhood friend and fellow hacker, which was a direct violation of his release terms. When authorities discovered what he'd done, a warrant was issued for his arrest. But by the time they came for him, Kevin Mitnick was already gone. In 1992, Kevin Mitnick disappeared. He became a fugitive, and for the next 2.5 years, he turned himself into a ghost. He moved between cities, lived under assumed names, and kept hacking. His primary alias was Eric Weiss, which was the birth name of Harry Houdini, the greatest escape artist in history. It wasn't a coincidence. Mitnick saw himself the same way. A man who could slip out of any trap, vanish from any pursuer, and reappear wherever he wanted. He lived in Denver for a period, hiding in plain sight, working odd jobs while breaking into corporate networks in his spare time. The FBI knew he was out there somewhere. They just couldn't find him. During his time as a fugitive, Mitnick pulled off hacks that would become legendary, not because of their technical sophistication, but because of how absurdly simple they were. Take Motorola. Mitnick wanted the source code for the Microtak Ultralight, one of the most advanced cell phones of its time. So he picked up the phone. He called Motorola's main switchboard and asked to be transferred. He bounced between departments until he reached the team that was actually working on the source code. Then he told them he was a Motorola employee who needed a copy of the code. 20 minutes later, Motorola transferred the complete source code to him via FTP. No hacking, no code exploits, no breaking through firewalls. A phone call. That was Kevin Mitnick's superpower. He understood something that most security experts at the time completely ignored. You don't need to hack the computer. You just need to hack the person sitting in front of it. Between 1992 and 1995, Mitnick's list of targets grew. Nokia, Fujitsu, NEC, Novell, Sun Microsystems, Colorado Supernet. Each one fell to some combination of social engineering and technical exploitation. He stole proprietary source code, intercepted communications, and copied software that companies had spent millions of dollars developing. But here's the detail that would become central to his legend, and central to the debate that followed. Mitnick never sold what he stole. He never used it for financial gain. He never destroyed data. He never crashed systems. He took things because he could. Because solving the puzzle, beating the security, accessing what he wasn't supposed to access, that was the reward. It was intellectual trophy hunting. And to this day, people argue about whether that makes him a criminal or just the most dedicated tinkerer in history. On December 25, 1994, while most Americans were opening presents, Kevin Mitnick attacked the wrong target. Tsutomu Shimomura was a computational physics researcher at the San Diego Supercomputer Center and a well-known security expert. Mitnick broke into Shimomura's home computer using a technique that had never been seen in a real-world attack before. First, he flooded a trusted server with fake connection requests, a SYN flood, effectively silencing it. Then he predicted the numerical sequence patterns that Shimomura's machines used to identify trusted connections. With that prediction, he forged packets that appeared to come from the silenced server, tricking Shimomura's computer into granting access. Once inside, he installed a backdoor and stole security files. Then, in a move that would prove to be his undoing, he left taunting voicemail messages on Shimomura's phone. He'd attacked a cybersecurity expert, and then he'd mocked him. Tsutomu Shimomura took the attack personally, very personally. He didn't just report it to the FBI. He joined the hunt himself. Over the following weeks, Shimomura monitored the intrusions and began tracing the network activity. The trail led to cellular phone connections, which meant Mitnick was likely using cloned cell phones to access the internet. Shimomura flew to Raleigh, North Carolina, where the cellular signals were concentrated. Working with an FBI radio surveillance team and cooperating with Sprint's cellular division, Shimomura used radio direction-finding equipment to triangulate the exact source of the cellular transmissions. The signals led them to a small apartment complex. Inside, Kevin Mitnick had no idea that the man he'd taunted on Christmas Day was now standing outside his building. On February 15, 1995, the FBI knocked on Kevin Mitnick's door. When they entered, they found exactly what they expected. More than 100 cloned cellular phone codes, multiple fake identification documents, cloned phone hardware, and stolen proprietary data from some of the biggest tech companies in the world. The 2.5-year manhunt was over. The FBI's most wanted hacker was in handcuffs. But the story was far from finished, because what happened next would turn Kevin Mitnick from a hacker into a symbol, and the American justice system was about to make him into something much bigger than a criminal. After his arrest, Mitnick was denied bail. The government argued he was too dangerous to release and too great a flight risk, which, given his 2.5 years as a fugitive, wasn't an unreasonable argument. But what followed was extraordinary. Mitnick was held in federal custody for more than 4 years before his case went to trial. For years, without a conviction, without a sentence, just waiting. During that time, he was indicted on 25 federal counts of computer fraud, wire fraud, and telephone fraud. The government claimed he had caused millions of dollars in damages, but the actual numbers told a different story. DEC had originally claimed $4 million in damages. Years later, the U.S. attorney admitted the real cost of repairing the security holes Mitnick had exploited was closer to $160,000. That's a gap that's hard to explain away. And then there was solitary confinement. Kevin Mitnick spent 8.5 months in solitary. The justification, according to Mitnick himself, was one of the most absurd claims in legal history. He said that law enforcement officials told a judge he had the ability to start a nuclear war by whistling into a pay phone. The claim was that Mitnick could somehow dial into the NORAD modem via a payphone from prison and emulate modem signals by whistling to trigger a ballistic missile launch. Let that sink in. Whether the judge actually believed this or whether it was exaggerated in the retelling, the result was the same. Mitnick sat alone in a cell for 8.5 months. A man who had never committed a violent crime, who had never destroyed data, who had never sold stolen information, locked in solitary confinement because the government convinced a judge that he was too dangerous to be near a telephone. Mitnick's case became a lightning rod. On one side, the government painted him as the most dangerous hacker in America, a man whose skills posed a genuine threat to national security. On the other side, a growing movement saw something very different. They saw a curious tinkerer being punished far beyond what his crimes deserved. The Free Kevin movement exploded across the early internet. Supporters held yellow signs outside the prison where he was confined. Websites worldwide were defaced with Free Kevin banners. At one point, the protests caused the prison to go into full lockdown. The movement raised a question that the legal system still hasn't fully answered. When someone breaks into systems out of curiosity, never profits, never destroys data, and never harms anyone, how much punishment is enough? Mitnick's supporters argue the answer was certainly not 5 years, 8 months of solitary confinement, and a lifetime of being called the most dangerous hacker alive. In March 1999, just weeks before his trial was set to begin, Mitnick struck a deal. He pleaded guilty to 5 of the 25 federal counts, for counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of computer fraud, and 1 count of illegally intercepting a wire communication. On August 10, 1999, Judge Mariana Pfalzer sentenced him to 46 months in federal prison plus 22 months for violating the terms of his earlier supervised release. With credit for time served, the math worked out. Mitnick had already spent most of the sentence sitting in jail waiting for trial. He was also banned from profiting from any book or film about his criminal activities for 7 years, a variation of the son of Sam Law. On January 21, 2000, Kevin Mitnick walked out of federal prison. But freedom came with conditions. Mitnick was barred from using computers, the internet, cell phones, or any electronic communication device for 3 full years. For a man whose entire identity was built around technology, it was like telling a musician he couldn't touch an instrument. When the ban finally lifted in January 2003, Mitnick didn't go back to hacking. He went into business. He founded Mitnick Security Consulting and offered the same skills that had once made him America's most wanted, but this time, companies paid him to do it. He became one of the world's most sought-after penetration testers and security consultants. He published The Art of Deception in 2002, a book that became the definitive guide to social engineering, essentially teaching corporations how to defend against people exactly like his younger self. In 2011, he published Ghost in the Wires, his autobiography, which became a bestseller. That same year, he became Chief Hacking Officer at Nokia, a security awareness training company. The man the FBI once called the most dangerous hacker alive was now being paid to protect the same kinds of systems he'd once broken into. On July 16, 2023, Kevin Mitnick died in Las Vegas, Nevada, after a 14-month battle with pancreatic cancer. He was 59 years old. His wife Kimberly was by his side. She was expecting their child. Mitnick's legacy is complicated. To the government, he was a criminal who caused millions in damage and evaded justice for years. To the tech community, he was a pioneer who exposed vulnerabilities that nobody wanted to acknowledge. To the cybersecurity industry, he was proof that the biggest threat to any organization isn't a sophisticated exploit. It's a convincing phone call. More than 30 years after his first arrest, social engineering remains the #1 attack vector used by cybercriminals worldwide. Phishing, vishing, pretexting. Every one of these techniques traces its lineage back to the methods Kevin Mitnick perfected as a teenager in Los Angeles. The firewalls got stronger. The encryption got better. The AI got smarter. But people are still people. And as Mitnick proved over and over again, people will always be the weakest link. Digital crime files. The true crime of the internet.